look at number 4. In whom, that is those that are lost, in whom the God of this world hath blinded the minds of them which believe not, lest the light of the glorious gospel of Christ, who is the image of God, should shine unto them. This verse is so misused, Jimmy, and it's misused by saying that Satan is the God of this world. That's far, far from what this verse says. It says it's a lowercase g in our English, which indicates false or fake. Our enemy, Satan, is the fake God of this world. He's not powerful. All these attributes we read of God do not apply to him. He's not an invisible, personable, living and active spirit who wants my best. He's not self-existent. He's not eternal. He's not unchanging. He's not faithful and wise. He's not holy, righteous, and loving. He's not long-suffering and compassionate. And he's not a transcendent being who rewards those who know him for their good. This is the fake, impotent, limited, false, lowercase g, God of this world. And that only applies not to the world in general, but it's those that are lost, that have given themselves over to him. And so verse number 4 says, the God of this world blinded the minds of those that are lost, which believe not, lest the light of the glorious gospel of Christ, who is the image of God, should shine unto them. Here's what I wrote down on this one. I wrote down, the enemy has power over those who have not submitted unto God. That's why I'm talking about the importance of submitting to him from my perspective. If I submit to him from my perspective, then I have to obey whatever the answer is. And I know that when we are stuck in our hurt, in our suffering, there's a part of us, Jimmy, that if we've been wronged before, we don't want to give that up, because we know if we give it up, nobody's going to care.
Right.
And that's a huge part, man. When I counsel people, they're like, if I surrender this hurt to God, then the memory of this person is forgotten forever. Or this person that did me wrong, who will hold them accountable? No one else. I'm the one that got hurt. I remember I had a situation that I had one time, and myself and my brother also went through it. And he told me, he said, Ken, this is a couple of years after happening. He said, I want to put up a big billboard, and I want to tell everybody the details about what happened so that they can understand the truth of how some folks were lying. And he said, but he realized that even if he could put up a billboard and he could say what he wanted to say to everybody could hear, he realized that he didn't care. If somebody's done you wrong and you have the ability to tell the whole world and set the whole world straight, the reality is the whole world doesn't care. The whole world doesn't think about it like you think they do. We create our own world in our head. And we're the center of that world, and we want the whole world to know these things about our hurt. The reality, Jimmy, is we torture ourselves. We create this reality and torture ourselves. So when we submit to God all of our hurt, he's the one that say it again. He's the one that takes vengeance. Vengeance is mine, saith the Lord. Somebody's hurt you, I will tell you this. This is very old. This is not original with me. People will recognize this. But bitterness, I'll just say this for those that have been hurt by others. Bitterness is like drinking poison and waiting for your enemy to die. Being bitter towards somebody else is only poisoning yourself and thinking you're hurting them. They aren't thinking about you. If somebody's done you wrong, they're not thinking about you. Isn't that hard to hear? But it's like, so I'm just stuck with this hurt? Yeah, kinda. That's why Jesus said, come to me, all you who are burdened. I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you. That's easy. My burden is light.
That's
He's
also
saying,
why
if you'll trust me.
That's also why he talked so much about forgiveness, and because he knew exactly the principle you're speaking of. Forgive people because it's hurting you. It's not hurting them as much, And
I know for a fact, the only reason I'm alive today, I know this because of the direction I was going. It wasn't good. I can remember at times, Jimmy, being on I had a sports bike. I sold it, don't have it, but I had a sports bike, and I can remember full throttle on back roads and screaming in my helmet as loud as I could scream. I remember taking my handlebars and just shaking them like this. I was so hurt. How fast was I going? I have no idea. Doubt a cop could have caught me.
Wow.
It was fast. And I can remember screaming and just shaking my handlebars. I could not get over how nobody was coming to my defense in this time in my life. It was bad. And
I never got on the motorcycle, but I probably drank a whole lot of alcohol during those times.
I can understand why you'd say that. And there's a lot of times it's we need an escape from this life, and I totally get that. But the mechanism that we have in place that the lost don't have is that we can see the truth and they can't. And I can't imagine not having that benefit. Let's go to verse 5.
Well, real quick, this verse 4 reminds me of the salvation shelter.
Totally.
Because when you were talking earlier about the small g God of this world, he does have some authority and ability over those outside of the salvation shelter, which is what you taught us in that episode.
Yeah, you get out of the shelter, you're in the storm.
Yeah.
That's why I love the imagery of the salvation shelter.
I love it.
Once you walk outside, which remember how you do that, if those haven't seen the video, that's a good video to see. But you get into the shelter by faith and you walk out by unbelief. It has nothing to do with actions. People are out of Jesus because of unbelief.
Right.
Now there are characteristics of believing and unbelieving, and we go over that in that video. But yes, good call. And that's why, and this is a really, really big, I'll tell you, the more I learn about the Bible, the more I realize that this is a bigger and bigger deal in my mind. We talked about that prepositional phrase, in Christ. Our position is in Christ. We died in him, we're raised with him, we're seated at the right hand. His identity becomes our identity. When we don't understand what that means, some really bad teaching can seep in. And we can talk about that another time.
If you like this video, hit that like and subscribe button. And check out the full episode by clicking the link below.